Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Well, hello there, it's Dr. Gemma, and this is episode 191 of Cognitive, the new series, yay! As I record this, it is Sunday morning, July 14th at 10:41 a.m., and as always, it's been pretty exciting around here. So welcome back. If you're new, welcome for the first time. Glad you found us. But welcome back, because I think you're all just returning. All right, so let's see what's going on here in the cognitive verse. First off, your comments are very welcome. Been a little quiet over there in the comment range, I'm just saying. So you can either comment on our blog at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com. Remember, in the word cognitive, there is the word knit. So it's COGKNITIVE, but it's all one word. Or you can go to our group on Ravelry and comment. In the warm thanks department, well, I have to thank the people who have been signing up for CFRX, that is CFR10, that is Cognitive Fiber Retreat 2024. Because that was a good thing to see. I started getting kind of emotional about it last week, as I think I mentioned. And, it's just always exciting at this time of year. This one has been especially exciting, and I will talk about that. A lot of unexpected but interesting stuff here. I also want to thank the wonderful Steffi Jo, who sent a really good message to the information group for CFR10. And there is a link to it, so you can go in the show notes and find Steffi Jo's message linked. This is about her class on Afterthought Everything Socks. And I'm just going to read it, frankly, because I think this is really worth hearing. She says, you're going to need a knitted tube or tubes for a pair of socks. And knitted at the number of stitches and gauge that fit the wearer. Big surprise there. Now you can buy tubes from people on Etsy. And some people on Etsy actually let you send them your previously purchased sock yarn, and they will make it into a tube. Or if you have a friend with a circular knitting machine, whatever. And if you're going to do that, though, you do tell the knitter how much yarn to use or how long you want the tube. And you can request just one long tube, usually with some sort of waste yarn in between to demarcate. Not always, though. Or you can ask for 2 tubes of equal length. And yeah, the tubes or tube have waste yarn at either end. Or if you're me, you can knit your own tubes by hand. Because I'm not into the sock knitting machine thing yet, although I have a feeling that's coming later in life. Remember that sock tubes are great summer knitting. She says they're great car knitting. They're just great knitting. All right, and now, if you're going to knit 2 separate tubes, you do the length of one sock and you finish with 1 inch of waste yarn and then cast off. Don't bind off because you're going to be able to unravel this. You have to be able to unravel this. So you're going to do both tubes that way. If you're going to do a single tube, you cast on with waste yarn, you knit 2 socks worth of tube, then you finish with 1 inch of waste yarn and you cast off. So this is not a really tough thing to do. Don't forget, you have to have waste yarn at both ends of your sock tubes. If you do, you're just going to kind of blindly cut into your stitching to make the live stitches. And this is, by the way, what the greats have done in the past. So, don't panic if you have to do that. It just means you're going to pay a little more attention. It's easier if you have the waste canvas to work from. Okie dokie. And then you want the tubes to be the length that you normally like for your sock. Remember, you're talking foot and leg. You're not just talking about the leg of your sock, which is a mistake I would make. And Steffi Jo gives this really nice formula. My ideal sock length is 2 times my foot length after subtracting the lengths I want for toe and heel. And for her, that's about 6 inches. Ooh, teeny tiny feet there, Steffi Jo. Going to be staring at your feet this September, just saying. At any rate, it says for each sock, I see what she's doing. Okay, for every sock, I knit a tube that is 12 inches long. Now mine would be, I knit a 7-inch leg, including ribbing at the top. Do with that as you will. And then my foot, without the heel and the toe, is I think 5 3/4. So that would be 12 3/4. So in other words, if you're hand knitting your socks, this is going to be pretty straightforward for you. You're just going to think about the length of your leg that you knit. And then you put in the waste yarn for the afterthought heel if you're me. And then you do another 5 3/4. Okay. And making 2 tubes means you only have to make 1 steek per tube. If you have a long tube, you're going to be making another one to separate the socks. Please keep in mind, you're going to need smooth yarn or crochet cotton to put in lifelines. And she says, yes, do lifelines. Well, she says, optional if you're brave. No, be a coward. We don't want tears at CFRX. Be a coward. And she says, don't forget to bring sock needles that match the gauge of the tube. She says, personally, I always have 1 extra circular needle to do magic loop and a set of DPNs. For me, no, that would be 2 circular needles, DPNs. Hest. Okay, bring a darning needle. Bring the yarn for the heels, toes, and cuffs, you know that? Or contrasting yarn. Yeah, there's a big one. Don't just bring the tubes, man. You got to be able to make the heels, toes, and cuffs. Yes, please bring small, sharp scissors. This is about steeking. And remember, we have other classes about steeking. You're going to need those small, sharp scissors. Jasmine and Viva Scrapper want you to know that. And as always, bring a sock ruler or a tape measure. So warm thanks to our Steffi Jo. It's a great posting, amazingly detailed and clear. So that I really appreciate that because we have the classes coming up. And yes, the information, the link is in the show notes to take you to the information thread on Ravelry. It's actually twice in the show notes, once near the beginning and once towards the end in the calendar section. So all the information is right there. And yeah, it's become sort of part of my week to go through and update it. So if you hear this and I haven't, bad me. Remember that the cost is $30 per adult. Anybody under 18 is free because we want the little kids to come and to learn the skills. Please send your fee to me, Gemma, DW, as in Gemma Dog Walk, at yahoo.com. This is not refundable. I think I've talked before about, and I'm going to talk more when we get to the blather, and you'll find out why. My first goal is to bring this lower, and I think we're going to do that, assuming we have more than 20 people. The first goal has to be to pay for the conference room, and that's why this is so steep. Because I'm going to have to pay for that. I'd like not to use my cash. Thank you very much. But hopefully if we get up to numbers, no, it should not be $30, but we're starting with $30 per adult attendee. If you have ever attended a CFR, and that means any time since 2009, I believe, then you're in, and we need you to start signing up now. The sign up started on July 1st. If you're new, the sign up starts on August 1st. I also have the link in the show notes from the hotel to book your group rate to get the room. Please be aware there are a lot of hotels in the Santa Clarita Valley. Okay, you do not have to stay at this particular hotel. There are a lot others because, it's not that cheap, even with the reduced rate. So, and also this year you're not paying for my room. This year I have enough bonus points from other trips. So I'm just picking up my own room this year. And then you can see the event summary, which is the start date is officially the start date is Saturday. Officially, the only date is Saturday, September 28th. But by now, you know that we start gathering on the 27th. People go out to meals together or just sit and knit or crochet together or set up their spinning wheels, in the lobby. Last year, they were very good with us all around the pool with spinning wheels. In fact, I think they were dead out fascinated with the spinning wheels. It was very funny because I went to the front desk at one point. I think it was like, it was Saturday night. And it's Saturday night because they're used to having a lot of wedding parties on the weekends. And of course, Saturday night for a wedding party, a little bit of, overuse of alcohol, shall we say. So they kept expecting us to be rowdy and drunk and everything else. So anyway, they have Saturday nights and Friday nights, they kind of have the goon squad at the front desk. They're big guys, So I walk up to the front desk, and I don't remember why, and one of them goes, "I have a question for you." And I thought, oh no, somebody's drunk, here we go. And he said, "What are those things?" I said, What do you mean? What things? He goes, "Those things, the wooden things. They have big wheels on them." I nearly died. I wanted to say, have you never seen a Disney movie? It's a spinning wheel, of course, But they were really shocked. They kept saying, and what time will your people come back from their reception? It's like, no, you don't understand. We're done that. We all went to dinner, or some of us stayed in and did DoorDash, and we're not doing anything like that. And they kept saying, but well, they were trying to ask me, where's the part where you're all drunk and out of control? And let me tell you, on the way out the door Sunday morning, they were like throwing themselves at me going, "You can come back. You could always come back. You could come back on a weekend. You guys should fill the hotel." And I thought, boy, these people suffer. Which reminds me to say, though, it is a condition of our contract for the meeting room, the Valencia room, which I think the contract's about $700 this year. I need to go look through my notes. In case you're wondering why I'm charging $30 a head here, that would be why. And there is a condition there that we can't be drunk. We can't have booze. Can't bring booze on the premises. Now, they do have their own bar, which I understand wasn't really set up for action last year, despite the fact they told us they had it. However, if you just cross the driveway to the next door hotel, they have a pool with a nonstop bar attached, as far as I could tell. And a group of us ate dinner there. What night was that? I think Friday night, because we were all too wiped out to go into town. All right, so please, no drunk and disorderly at CFRX. Do not bring booze. No booze in open spaces. Please, please, please. We'd like to continue this tradition. All right, and let's see what else. All right, well, let's get on to the group projects. So right now, the basic group project is the free basic granny square pattern for the crossbody granny square bag. Now, what are we really doing? We're teaching you to make granny squares. Let's be obvious here. And the easiest way to use them is make 4, and you can get that wonderful bag that our own Carmen, who I'm assuming is attending this year, that she made for all the OC people last year. And they all walked in wearing them, which was adorable. And she has a pattern that costs money. I've found a whole bunch of patterns, but on the Yarnspiration site, they give you the pattern for free. Carmen also supplied me with a video how to make the strap in Tunisian crochet. You don't have to. You can use hardware. You don't have to. When you're learning on this, I want to make it clear, you can just make 4 squares in a strap and you can crochet it all together. There doesn't even have to be sewing if you know what you're doing. And we're having a class on this for our own Ariane. I have not worked out the class schedule yet. Please be patient. But the thing is, if you can make a granny square, you can make a huge amount of things. I'm making a cardigan out of them. I've made this crossbody bag 4 squares. The cardigan, I think, is 68 squares and a lot of seaming. You got to be patient on that. And also, I'm going to be working on another granny square bag I'm looking at that has all these cats, and it's an adorable bag, considerably bigger. It's 13 squares. So, if you can do a granny square, and it takes no brains at all. They're very, very easy to do. You don't have to change color in them. You can get a nice variegated yarn in there. If you can do this, you're fine. So that's our basic group project I want people to know about because it'll support the class. For a granny square that for me is 6 inches by 6 inches, I use an I hook. And let me think, a G is a 4.0 and a J is a 5.0. I was thinking an I is like a 4.5. GH, no, there's got to be an H in there too. I don't know, I can't do the math in my head. I'm not terribly awake right now. Anyway, I use an I hook. That means a J would have to be a 6.0. I can't think of it. All right. I as in Ignatz the mouse. Oh yeah, you can tell. What words begin with I? I as in Idaho. All right. So we also, by the way, are getting our free basic granny square pattern from the wonderful Pearl Soho. So I'm going to give them a little free love here. The wonderful yarn shop in New York City. Thank you, Pearl Soho. But you should be able to find granny squares all over Ravelry, all over the internet. Crocheters are not as big on using Ravelry as knitters are, but crocheters like to do a lot of YouTube videos. So just search granny square and you're going to find a lot of options. You can make your granny square any way you want. So Carmen in her bags used a basic granny square. On mine, I used a sunflower or a sunburst, depends where you look, what it's called. I'm now looking at a series that have cats on them. If you can make a granny square, you're there. 6 by 6 inches worked really well for me when I made my bag. Now, I lined my bag, so I have a template, piece of template plastic, and to line it, I just used 2 squares that I bought at Joann's that were fat quarters. So yeah, you can go over to Joann's, which is fairly close to where we'll be meeting. You can buy a packet of fat quarters. It's usually like 6 or 7. You can buy that packet for a few bucks, and you can share them around. So everybody kick in $2 and you can have fat quarters if you want to work on your lining, because we will have at least one person with a sewing machine, at which point I'm telling you that'll be Jasmine Knitmore. Be really nice to her if you want to use her sewing machine. But I'm going to try to remember to bring that template. I've got it in my box to go to CFR already. Okay. But in the meantime, other group projects. Last year, we had the Abbas Sock Yarn Cow. That is a D as in dog hook for me. And that's because we're going to have the mini skein exchange of fingering sock yarn weight. So, bring along a D hook and you can just work on the Abbas cow. You don't have to do granny squares, or you can do your granny squares Friday night and then spend Saturday night doing the Abbas. It's all good. All right. And finally, because I've been talking up woobling, there are 2 free patterns from the Woobles. One is the basic penguin, that's Pierre. The other is a chick, that's Kiki. Okay, so you can get those patterns for free. You don't need to be dependent on the Woobles. You don't have to pay $30 for the kit. They tell you to use worsted weight yarn. They use a t-shirt yarn, which I would consider one size up, a size 5, not a size 4, but still. And they say use a G as in girl hook. That's a 4.0 in their case. So there's 3 free patterns that you can work on just to be with the gang. Why am I using crochet? Well, first of all, remember, we're going to be doing Steeking with Jasmine and with Viva Scrapper and with Steffi Jo. And those are knitted patterns. So if you're working in those classes, you're going to have probably sock knitting and also samples. I think Jasmine was using just square samples last year so that you could get the hang of steeking without committing a whole sweater to it. All right, so the reason I'm using crochet is 2 reasons. One, for the classes, except for the crossbody bag, you're going to have knitting. So if you want to work on your knitting together with the group, you betcha. You betcha. Do whatever you want to do. You're supposed to enjoy yourself. But if you want a fast project that's like a souvenir of CFRX, then the crochet ones are kind of the fast, easy things to do. Whoo-wee! What's on my hooks and needles, you may be wondering? Okay, well, the Woobles have really made me think about a lot of stuff this week. And I'm not going to tell you all of it because you'll just be snoring. But I ordered a bunch of the mini Wooble kits. Now, let me tell you about the mini Wooble kits. They cost $5 to $7. They do not include a crochet hook. But they do include everything you need, including a pattern, to make a little teeny tiny Wooble. I have to tell you honestly, some of these would make great beginner kits. Not all of them. Leave the fox alone. Leave it the fox alone. I am not kidding you. Leave it the fox alone. Don't try to do the foxes in either size as a beginner kit. You'll be banging your head into the tabletop if you're not used to crocheting. The foxes aren't difficult, but they're kind of beginner plus. However, among the mini Woobles, the chick is very easy. The narwhal is very easy. The bee is ridiculously easy. Let me see what else they have there. They have a mini penguin, a little more complex, because you'd have to make a magic circle. So I'd stay away from the baby penguin. But you should certainly be able to get, for $7, a beginner Woobles kit. Buy your own hook. You'll get everything else you need, except, oh yes, you need a needle, a little, the carpet needle tapestry needle to sew pieces together. So you're going to need your own sharp scissors, your own G as in girl 4.0 millimeter crochet hook, and a tapestry needle. Okay, you can buy that at Joann's or Michael's, a lot cheaper than you can buy the $30 beginner Wooble kits with the full-size one. So, if you want to learn to crochet on something teeny, and you have somebody who can help you with that initial circle, or you can look online. The Woobles have free videos on YouTube where you can find out how to do that beginning circle. But if you're willing to do that, then, these little kits are actually a pretty good buy. I actually think, $7 to make the little chick is fine. I would probably pay $5 for the pattern. So anyway, I bought a whole collection of these minis just to sort them out. And I've been having a lot of fun with them. Usually, with the exception of the fox, which I'm working on now, I do them in one day. And they're a lot of fun. So I did the mini chick, the mini bunny, and the mini narwhal. Meanwhile, I finished Sebastian the Wooble's lion. He's hacked. I just used my own yarn. But somebody did give me the pattern, I will be honest, because the lion's a lot like the fox or Albie the phoenix, that they're actually very easy patterns, but there are things about them that make them take longer. The fox has a lot of small moving parts, as it were. Ears and a tummy and a snout and a tail, And so and some embroidery. The fox takes a while just because you're doing a lot of pieces. But Albie the phoenix, who is the egg shape he looks like a rooster really. But anyway, there's him and there's Sebastian the lion. And these guys are easy as heck. But they take a lot of work with chaining stitches. And chaining is easy. But you have to be clear on following the directions very, very precisely. You can't just go, oh, I think she means this. You have to actually literally do exactly what they tell you to do step by step in the pattern. I have to say I loved Sebastian the lion. I found him boring as heck. He's the otter with a mane, to be completely honest, and in gold. But when you do the mane, anytime I do hair on an amigurumi, like on the Wednesday one that I did a while back, or the wings on Albie the phoenix, I'm always kind of blown away by working on an animal with hair. It's always a little bit adventurous for me, even though it's very easy. Well, when you do the lion's mane, that completely changes the lion. And the mane isn't hard, but I'm going to tell you right now, if you get that beginner lion, the full-size beginner lion, Sebastian, you better be ready to sit down for an hour and do nothing but that mane. Because it's just time consuming. It's not hard. You'll get it right away. You'll get what she's doing right away. But there's like 39 loops on it, and then you've got to sew it on. And if you're doing the mane on the lion, believe me, you need big quilt pins. You're going to need to pin that baby down so that it's not wiggling all over the lion. Nonetheless, I did the mane. I crocheted the mane. And then you pull it into this big loop, and you just put it on the lion in a certain way. You organize it under the chin, behind the ears. And it blew me away how different the lion looked when you add the mane. And it looks really cute, really adorable. And so you pin it down carefully, and then you very carefully sew through the front loops and the body of the lion. Nothing hard here, but way time consuming. So I wouldn't call it a beginner. I'd call it more of an intermediate or a beginner plus at the worst. But Sebastian the lion is a lot of fun. I wouldn't call him a first kit. If I was getting a first kit for the Woobles, it might be the baby chicken, but I'd have to say the baby bee. If I don't want to spend the money, if I'm willing to spend the money to get the hook and the bigger one, I'd get the full-size chick or the full-size penguin or the full-size bee. Those are the three really easy beginner Woobles. The narwhal's easy as well, but the body shape is a little wonky, and that's why I'd stay away from that. The unicorn is easy as well. Snoopy is easy as well. But again, if you're not used to the unusual body shapes, you might find them off-putting. Having said that, in progress, no change on the stash toss, 25 in versus 47 skeins out. Oh, I want to remind you, by the way, speaking of the stash toss, remember our vendors for CFRX, Lisa Sousa, Oink, and Laser Sheep. If you want a large quantity of yarn, I have the links on the information thread to their shops. You can contact them and order it in advance and pick it up at the event if you would like to. So please think about this and contact these vendors in advance and ask them to bring it. Just order it and have it delivered on the spot. Don't forget that. Meanwhile, the Lakeside Cardigan, hooray! This week I worked out the finishing squares on the left front. So now I owe the right front, I think 4 squares, but I don't have them quite in the color sequences I want. So I have to sit down, and that may wait until Labor Day, but I have to sit down and really figure out what I'm doing there and then do the seaming. Nothing on the vestuary. Nothing on the Dizzy Blondes. So let's go on to a strategy. Strangely, my strategy comes from a channel on Instagram called Feminist that popped up in my feed. Not really that surprising, is it? But they had a very good point. They said, stop watching the evil. I kind of did a double take. And I realized I was very stressed out at the time because I had been watching the evil. I had been watching these people who broadcast horrible stuff on the internet, and I'm not going to name names, my politics, but just horrible stuff. Now, some of this stuff, like the Republican Party's Project 2025, I think we just have to spread the word. I think most grassroots Republicans did not realize what was going on there. And, I think it's important. I've been spreading as many resources on that as I can because I just think, look, you make your own decisions when you vote, but you should at least know what your party is going to be pushing. And apart from that, I was just getting stressed out of my mind. And so I ran into this posting on Instagram by Feminist, and they said, stop. They said, what these people are going to say. Stop. Their platform. Stop. Do not watch the things that are upsetting you. If you know it, you know it. You don't need to keep rehashing that. Okay, also, this brings up the issue of be very careful because when you're doing this, you're using social media to get your news. And you want to be very, very careful with that. There are much more reliable, safe news outlets. And do your homework. Where are the news outlets that you believe in? Use them. Stop using social media. Well, if you're not using social media for this kind of news outlet, what are you using it for? And I think that's a really important question, and I've talked about it before, that social media can do many things. So I'm not going to tell you, only use it for X or Y. But I will tell you, you need to figure out what you want to have happen to you when you look at social media, okay? I go to social media for relaxation. So Feminist is right on for me. I go to social media to see what my friends are up to. I go to social media to see what some vendors are putting out. Okay, otherwise, you need to go through your friends list. You need to go through the people you're following. You need to get rid of the junk that is not giving you what you want. That has been very complex. In other words, when I first realized this a while back and talked about it, I did get rid of people who had significantly different political views than my own. Why? They're still my friends, but I am, some of them are still my friends. Let's be careful there. I have to admit, no, if you're supporting the oppression of any of a group, no, you're not my friend. Sorry, no, go away. But in the meantime, I can have friends who are not my friends on social media. That's what I'm trying to say. Little kids who have phones but should not be on social media because of their age or maturity levels, right? There's a lot of reasons to have friends in real time who are not your friends on social media. Please be clear on that. Because if they're just posting stuff that upsets you, what are you doing? What are you doing? Are they really going to change their mind because of something you post on social media? I know I just said that about Project 2025. All right, live with my hypocrisy. But in the meantime, you have to decide what you're doing. Now, I have seen people who organize political action on social media. Sure, absolutely. If you want to organize political action, if that's how you're getting in touch with your crew, absolutely. But again, please think about this. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying do this, don't do that. But I went through, and I still go through every so often, and I weed out. I get extra vendors who I don't know because the feed thinks I want them. I weed them out. I go through advertising if I'm given a choice and say, no, I don't want that. Okay, weed your stuff out. But the important thing is, do not follow the evil. If you know it's upsetting you, and you know what the content is, why are you following it? Is this what you want out of your social media? Please identify what your goals are on social media, and please correct your various social media channels to give you what you think you're there to get. Oh, shoot. Well, I still have listed in the show notes that I'm cycling, but no, I've been running, and we're just smack in the middle of my 9-day week 5. I think I just finished day 2. So tomorrow I have an easy run doing the day 3 cycles, except the easy runs aren't that easy anymore. I'm really at a place where I could race 5Ks pretty comfortably now that 2 out of 3 of my running programs that I'm using are at 5K distances, more or less. I think the longest one where I'm running 9 minutes 4 times with 30-second breaks in between, that would be 36 minutes of running. That would take me through most flat and fast 5Ks. Yeah, all of them are taking me through that. Why am I not showing that? If you see my posts on my longest run, today I did the longest run. Oh Lord, it was hot and sticky. There was a thunderstorm when I got up. I was ready to go out the door at 5:45 this morning, and there was a thunderstorm. But that was this enormous heat wave breaking right on top of our mountain. I looked out the front window and saw lightning hit the field in front of the house. Hooey! So I didn't even get out of the house till, I think, 7:30 when the storm finally stopped, and then it got hot and sticky and humid. So I think I only did 2.5 miles. However, I used it to do significant hills. So in my training right now, because I'm not always doing 3 miles, I am using the runs that come in under 3 miles to do hills, like you care, right? This is my personal training thing, and I'm justifying myself to you. Thank you for your patience with this. But what I'm really saying is, I think I'm up to a 5K, which is very, very nice to say, considering I started on Memorial Day. Where are we? About 6 weeks in. About 6 weeks exactly. That's a pretty good couch to 5K. Usually they give you 8 weeks to do it. But I'm not running it straight. I do take 30-second breaks or sometimes 1-minute breaks in between clusters of run. And it's a lot of fun. And the biggest issue is just getting out there early enough because of the heat at this time of year. We've had a huge, huge heat wave here. We had, I think it was now almost 14 days, and it just broke today. So it's only going into the 90s here. That's not hot. Yeah, it is. I mean, when you're in the desert like we are, the heat is not the temperature, it's the sun. Like I get up and I run in the morning and it's 71, 72 degrees, but the sun's not over the mountains. And it's actually cool, and there are cool breezes along the surface of the roads. But when you're in the sun and it's that same temperature, you're just baking. So it's really the intensity of the sun out here, if you wonder why I talk the way I do about this. But it's going very, very nicely. I feel terrific. My weight is down. And I started seeing postings from this wonderful person. I want to say her name is Latanya, and I can't remember her full username. But she's posting on Instagram. And she's run, get this, she's 39 years old, and she's run 28 marathons. 28. Imagine that. So more than one a year is what we're saying. And she says she has failed to finish a few races, but she's completed 28. So good Lord. 2 or 3 a year, do you think? And she is a Clydesdale, as we used to call it in the running community. She is a heavier runner. And I love this woman because she runs in bike shorts and I'm trying to think what she's wearing on the top, because I'm not that interested in her body, to be honest, But she says she runs in crop tops on one of her vids. And she says, please stop writing to me and say you're so brave if you're judging my body when you do that. Like you're brave because you're fat. She said, please stop doing that. And I thought, wow, that's eye-opening. There's an interesting thing in running. If you run, you're a runner. And so she posted this one about running 28, and all these people are writing in going, wow, that's really great considering you're... And I just wrote in and said, you're a runner, man. You're a marathoner. You're as much a marathoner as any of the rest of us. She's more of a marathoner than me. I've only run 3. I really respect this. She's only 39. This lady has got like another 60 marathons in her. And I really thought she was amazing, because there's the thing in running where we cheer on people when we see them struggling. And there's been a lot of pushback of people saying, don't applaud for me when you see me running a race just because I'm overweight. And I'm thinking, well, no, that's not what I think many of us are doing. In my world, I started running in the 70s. There was an etiquette about running. When you finish your run and you see another runner, you cheer for him. You're not going, yeah, you're fat, good for you, keep going. You're just saying, go, runner, go. So if I'm driving down the road and a runner goes by, I do, to this day, I roll my window down and I say, go, runner, go. And they always look puzzled because that etiquette's from 50 years ago. Yeah, I'm old, what do you want me to say? But I really like this woman, I really admire it. And really, too, what she's teaching me is she is incredibly strong. I was running marathons and my BMI, body mass index, was, now, technically speaking, BMI was made for men, what a surprise. And healthy is 20 to 25. And it is your height to your weight, I think. And I ran marathons and my BMI was over 20, what am I thinking? It was about 26. And I went to my doctor and I was very frustrated. And I was getting a physical. And I was lying face down on his table wearing running shorts because I had some kind of injury. And I just run a marathon. And I said, I just got to lose weight. And he looked at me. At that time I was at 26 BMI. And he said, are you out of your mind? He said, you don't have any weight to lose. Have you looked at yourself? Muscle weighs more than fat. Okay, but having said that, I was probably then an appropriate weight when I marathoned. I still injured on my third marathon. How this lady is doing 28 of them without huge injury, I cannot imagine. But this woman must be made of steel. You want to talk about strength. And also, let me tell you, a marathon, 26.2 miles, as one friend said, that's a long way to drive a car, let alone to run. Yes, you're out there for many hours. Many hours. Mine were like 7 hours because I can't run that distance without damaging something. So I run the first half, which I can do halves very easily actually, and then I run and I walk alternately. So this woman must be so incredibly strong. So she's making me rethink this. And the interesting thing here too is, of course, this feeds into my concerns about my diabetes, which is doing really wonderfully. And there's always going to be an issue with weight because we don't want to be judgmental about other people's weight. But there is a health issue that is significant, that as a runner, I'm doing really well because it's easier to run when you're lighter. That for me, there has been less damage. Now, this woman I love because she's running at a higher BMI, I suspect, than I have. She's not injuring. She's really taking care of herself. So again, this week I had this sort of in-your-face lesson about, it's about the strength of the runner. It's about the build of the runner. Can their frame of bones and tendons take what they're doing? It is not you're too this to run, you're too that. I am too fragile to run. Even at my current weight, I damaged myself permanently in my iliotibial band on the left side. She can do it. So, again, let's kind of pull the judgment back and let's look at instead when you're taking care of yourself, you adapt your self-care to the body you have. And that means you can tell somebody what worked for you, but you can't tell people what's going to work for them. This seemed really important to say to me this week. Meanwhile, I'm heading for week 6 and I'm looking forward to it. In the Fluffy books, of course, still looking forward to the new Flavia Albia. The link is in the show notes. That should actually be out, I think, by the time you hear this. I can't do math right now. I haven't had enough ketones for breakfast. Also, I want to point out, I've been enjoying the Love Takes Root series by Lynn Messina. These are kind of different from her other books. She hit it big with the Beatrice Hyde Clare mysteries, and she's doing those, and I started reading the latest one. I think it's A Vicious Machination. But I really got sucked back into Love Takes Root. I started looking at her earlier stuff. This is straight up Regency romance, but it's got a very sly twist to it that is very reminiscent of Georgette Heyer, the classic writer of Regency romance, after, of course, the great Jane Austen. And Love Takes Root, a little bit spicy. There's always like one spicy scene, but not heavily spicy, not like Bridgerton that does full out. sex scenes. No. But anyway, these are subtly funny and clever. And I'm reading them in the wrong order. I keep trying to find the right order. Finally, I put a link into Goodreads where you could learn the proper order, which I did not follow. But I'm in the last one for me. What is it called? Miss Fellingham's Rebellion. And it is very funny. It is very, very funny. What the nature of the rebellion is takes you a chapter or two to figure out. And it's just clever and quirky and funny. So I've been enjoying this series. Do they have any redeeming social or moral value? Not really. All right. Something I really like. Well, first, there's a picture of the Scrubby from Big B, Little B. And I put a link in the show notes so you can get one of these. I think they charge $9. I got it for free when I bought my lovely collapsible, reusable silicone clamshells for taking out to restaurants for leftovers. I got one of these as a bonus. That actually had a few bonuses, including a string bag to carry your leftovers. Anyway, so I didn't know what to do with this thing. I thought it was a little too soft to use as a dish scrubber. You could. But anyway, I didn't know what to do. Meanwhile, I have this problem. I sweat hard when I run now because we balanced my thyroid, which means you're going to sweat. It goes with diabetes. Those of you who know what I'm talking about are nodding. The rest of you are looking politely confused. Anyway, I had this problem that I was getting really, really dry skin on my face. So much so my friend in Pennsylvania started pointing it out. Thank you. And I could never figure out what to do with it. Turns out this little mugger is great at it. That what I do, this sits on the edge of my bathtub. And after I go for a run, I do like to bathe because I am covered in sweat. Nothing else is going to save you from the stink of me if I don't. And I have this on my bathtub. And I one day was playing around with my all-natural soap that I buy from a soap maker that I do not buy. I don't use commercial soaps because I got tired of the pollutants and the chemicals in them. And I use this very nice soap. And I was rubbing my face with the soap and I could feel the salt on my face. And so while I rinsed this face off first with a washcloth to try to get the salt off, just so I'm clear on the process. And then I lathered up my face with soap. And then I put the Scrubby on it and very carefully did circles all over my face. And then I rinsed it off. And the first time I did it twice because I knew there was dead skin. But usually I do this once every day. And it is amazing the difference in my skin. And then I use an all-natural, no perfume. Actually, it's a hand lotion that you get at Trader Joe's. But I use it as a face lotion because it's the only lotion I found that doesn't sting. And I will put that on top of it. This is an amazing way to do your face. This little Scrubby is really, really useful if you want to scrub your face. I love the big beehive on the top of it because it gives you a firm handle to hold it while you're scrubbing your face. The other thing I wanted to point out this week was Elise Rose Crochet. She has a YouTube channel. She's a pretty advanced crocheter. I've run into her before. She did a good review on the Woobles kits, actually. She put up a video that you probably should see, knitter or crocheter, and it's about phony patterns using AI. And sadly, on Etsy, there's a lot of phony patterns, and you can find them all over the internet where they look pretty normal, but if you examine them carefully, you're going to say, no, nobody could really do that with knitting or crochet. Now, she's talking about crochet, but I'm pretty sure it'll be out there in knitting if it's not already. So I put a link to her video where she tries to make one of the patterns. And she's interesting because she can't violate copyright. So what she does is she goes into ChatGPT and she tells it to make a pattern. What is stunning is she then tells it to give a picture of what the pattern should look like. I have seen this pattern for sale on Etsy. I have seen people selling exactly the picture that she generates. So this is kind of scary. So go have a look at that video just so you're aware. Again, this is one of those things why I'm in love with Ravelry, because it's much easier to spread the word on Ravelry. And I don't know if there's a group on Ravelry yet about phony AI patterns, but I hope one develops there. Put a lid on it. Well, as I say, I'm still passed out with my head in the fridge. It's so hot here. Now it's only in the 90s today. Okay, but meanwhile, I started looking at the carbs in dairy products that I like a lot. Sour cream, cottage cheese, heavy cream, and yogurt. Because I found out when I started this particular weight loss program, that is when I started cleaning up my keto in, when was that? March. I realized that yogurt is actually making my sugar go through the roof, and I was using it to make blue cheese dressing at home. Now, how do I make yogurt? Sour cream and blue cheese, and sometimes I thin it with heavy cream. At any rate, I also found a lot of recipes where you use cottage cheese in place of keto ice cream. So I looked at them and started comparing carbs. What I found out is sour cream is the hands down winner. I think it's a half cup serving is about 1 gram. Behind it, I like heavy whipping cream, which is about 1 gram. I want to think it's a tablespoon. Why did I put something that carb loaded right behind sour cream? Well, if you whip it, it's going to change that. It's going to be frothed up and bigger. But also because I think with sour cream thinned with whipping cream, you're doing pretty well on the carbs, but easy on the whipping cream. But anyway, so what did I find out? I found out that sour cream does not send my blood sugar up. Heavy cream, somewhat. Cottage cheese, somewhat. Yogurt, much more. So if you're looking at cutting carbs, not necessarily going keto, you might want to look at the comparison here. But for me, I found that sour cream is the best in terms of grams of carb. Heavy whipping cream in its liquid form, used very judiciously, works out okay with that. But yogurt and cottage cheese, little too much carb for me, just so you know. On to the blather. Well, it's time for the goodie bag fiasco. Yes. Remember I was writing to 10 people on Etsy every day, asking them to contribute coupons to our goodie bags. And that's what I say. I say, like, could you give us your coupons or could you give us your business cards just to put in the goodie bags? I'd like people to know. Now, what am I really doing there? The deal was, back in the day when we started CFR, there was a major financial disaster on a national level. Several of the people in my knitting group lost their homes over it. It was a bit of a disaster. It was 2009. And we said, we can put on a show in the barn. We said, let's do a knitting retreat where we use local talent, where we don't charge much. We'll all go to this hotel because I could get a good deal on it out in Tehachapi. And we'll keep it as cheap as we can. We'll keep admission low. We'll bring in vendors. And the fear was, because of the economic crisis, the crash in 2009, the fear was we were going to lose all our indie vendors. Okay. Meanwhile, I didn't know much about stitches and all that at that time, but they did exist. So there were some yarn cons around, not as many as there have been in recent years. So that was the point. And one of the things I thought was, let's get all these people on Etsy who have small stores. Let's help them too. So we'll have them write to us and maybe they will give us their business cards. Maybe they'll give us a small discount. That's how that went. Now, they were outstandingly generous in those days. They sent prizes. They sent larger discounts. I was really impressed. But it was a pretty normal practice back among the podcasters in those days to do things like this. Well, it's not anymore. Last year when I sent out my letter, I got a huge number of Etsy people saying, you're a scammer. So I rewrote the letter and said, here's all the links. Here's the proof. You can see it. So we did pretty well in the goodie bags last year. This year, no. I sent out 10 letters. Some of them reported me as a scammer. Yes, they did. Even though I sent them all the links, Etsy sent me a nice letter that said, stop it. Just don't do this anymore. I had a 24-hour crisis over it. And then I thought, why? This is the hardest part of CFR for me, is pushing myself through that and organizing the goodie bags. So as far as I can see this year, we don't have goodie bags. Good news, I pay for those goodie bags. They always come out of the take for CFR. So I feel sad because I'm looking at one of the goodie bags from last year, and I feel very sad because I'm like, oh, that's one of our last goodie bags. Wahaha. I'm so glad it has Minerva on it because, as you know, Minerva gets the last word, and it looks like she did. Looks like Minerva got the last goodie bag. So I think we're not doing goodie bags this year. I'm really interested in your response to this. A lot of people told me back in the day when we did CFR 8 and I stopped, a lot of the attendees then, and only about half of them were able to come back. Some of them have retired and moved. But they said, you don't have to work this hard. We don't need vendors. We don't need goodie bags. Well, I have to tell you, with the increase in costs, we may be going that way. But let me know what you think. But I don't see us having goodie bags this year. And a part of me is sad, and a part of me is like, no, that's okay. Now, back in the day when everything was cheaper, I had so much extra from the take. I was buying water bottles because I thought we might need them to carry around. Since then, we've learned microplastics. So I'm not doing that stuff anymore. Let me know what you think. But the goodie bags are gone. And that also, though, because of the cost of the goodie bags, they're not that expensive, to be honest. I think they were like, you had to order, I forget how many, if I had to order 70 last year, and they were like $1.80 a bag or something. They're not that expensive. But again, I'm saying, well, this may cut our price for admission. So I am thinking about all this. We have easily 90 days. I'm interested in your thoughts as well. But I have to admit, taking that pressure off me has been nice. The weight loss and the fasting, I'm down 27 pounds. Thank you. This is a big relief for me. I'm back at my marathoning weight, which is blowing my mind. Let's see what else is going on here. Well, first off, Project Cookbook staggers along, but the pup date, Captain and Queenie got groomed. Let me tell you how much better life is in the house. After that, not much else is happening. I'm sitting here in the study of love with Minerva stretched across my lap. In the show notes, you will see the community resources that we have that includes Etsy people who supported us in the past. There's a link to them. It says my favorite resources to buy, things I've bought to support my knitting, the books I've used for various patterns, a library that is, and then a list of skills and techniques that I've found in various places. All these links will take you back to the notes in Ravelry for our show for cognitive, different threads in that area, and you can add to them. Meanwhile, on the calendar, I basically got information on the stitchery groups that are local to the Santa Clarita Valley and also our Santa Clarita Valley Free Craft Exchange. These are not links, it's just their names and when they meet because these are all on Facebook. Meanwhile, on my calendar, I have the week of Labor Day off, which I'm deeply happy about because I really need time off, man. And of course, CFR 10 will be at the Courtyard by Marriott in Valencia on September 28th, and the link is there again. I won't make you listen to it again. Romule, I am hoping to have December 21st through I think the 29th off, but we'll see if I get the 30th, 31st off. Minerva, who just left, gets the last word. You can see her there with my right foot and a towel on my bathroom floor, and my right foot's on my hand crocheted rug, in fact, that I made from roving. She's lying on my towel. Why is she doing that? Because she's my best bath buddy. And Minerva's last word would be hang out with the people you love. Here in the hot weather, if you have nothing else to do, just be at home with your loved ones and enjoy yourself. And that's what we're all trying to do here. So, having said that, remember, we are a community. When you work for the good of the community, you are working for your individual self. Having said that, please get any kind of vaccines and stuff before you come to CFRX, please. If you have COVID or anything, I know we lost people to COVID last year who couldn't come. Oh, it hurt so bad. But meanwhile, please remember, please try to stay healthy. It's good for the community. And everybody, please stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.